welcome to another edition of NASCAR Fantasy Fastlane. I am not Steve Letarte. He is on sabbatical this week on a family vacation. So it'll be RJ Kraft, myself here, taking Steve's seat and attempting to lead this cavalcade of stars, if you will, through the fantasy wastelands. I am joined by Stat Guy Russell of Racing Insights. How you doing there?
Good, how are you?
Twitterless Russell.
Yep, Twitterless Russell.
And then we have two guests today, Jonathan Merriman of NASCAR.com, who has a flow not quite as glorious as Bryce Harper, but darn close.
Scraping the bottom of the barrel this week.
Oh,
how about that? Me on
I gave you a decent compliment,
hey, I
though,
appreciate
for Bryce
that.
Harper. Had the work that Bryce Harper mentioned in early because Steve's not here.
I work twice as hard as Harper does.
Based on his batting average, you might be.
Yeah.
And also from Motorsports Analytics and a new member of the Athletic Motorsport, David Smith.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. No problem. Statistical guru along with Russell.
Yeah, I don't know
This is going to be like a StatCast episode.
A StatCast.
Ish.
Okay.
And then we have
That's a little bit of pressure.
I'm a seat of my pants guy.
Yeah. Well, you have it to balance it out.
You're Bryce Harper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just run out the grounders. You'll be fine.
Yeah,
swing really hard.
Just fling the helmet off. You'll be fine. Yep. Unlike Clint Boyer. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be that kind of week. So first, let's just go through I want to give a couple shout-outs to the top 5 in our league. Been meaning to do this past couple weeks, and usually we just dive in and I kind of forget about it. So let's give a shout-out in the Fantasy Fastlane League to Cosmic Racing, topping the board at 2,808 points, followed by Kova 27 ? At 2,759. Then 3 at Darlington. I Love the 88 and Big Love Racing 2. You guys are beating all of us pretty soundly.
And that's a big point total, too.
That is a big point total, 2,808. I'm doing well. I'm in 18th, and I'm like 140 behind that guy.
Here we go.
No, well, to your point about it being a big point total.
Yeah, like that's averaging like over 216, 17
that's
points a
nailing
race.
some bonus picks,
Yeah.
which we are not doing.
Yes.
Which we should just ask them for the bonus picks moving forward. Also give a shout-out last week's guest, Corey LaJoy. Drivers, if you're paying attention out there, come on the podcast. You'll get a good finish. Corey LaJoy, 12th place, best non-super speedway effort. And Mike Joy was throwing out what he told us on the podcast numerous times because somebody was feeding it to him.
Somebody was. I'm not sure who.
Yeah, don't know who. Anyway, let's dive into Charlotte. What were your guys' impressions of that race? I thought it was one of the best mile and a halves we've had all year.
I think it was the best Charlotte race I've ever seen in my life, excluding the Roval. But that race was fantastic. Coming off the All-Star race, which was, one of the greatest races I've seen there. That 600 was, no pun intended, certainly refreshing to see.
Coca-Cola paid to say
There you go. No, they didn't.
What were your thoughts?
I thought it was the best 600 we've seen. And I think like the last 3 races we've had from Kansas to the All-Star to the 600 were incredible. Like this package is something.
David.
I'll tell you what I liked about it. Everything mattered. You had to be able to pass. You had to have speed. And you had to have smart strategy. It was as close as there is to a general classification race where you kind of just have to be good at everything to win the Coca-Cola 600. Martin Truex was really good. But Kyle Busch, again, fantastic. And I don't know about you guys, but it's starting to feel now, Kyle Busch with the Coca-Cola 600, kind of emulating Dale Earnhardt with the Daytona 500. He's so good at this racetrack, but is struggling to always close the deal. He got his win last year, but, man, we're going to remember him for his what-ifs, not his one win.
And what I like, too, is, Truex pancaked the wall and was still able to come back and win that race. So, there's a little bit of leeway with these race cars, too. You don't have to keep all the fenders perfectly straight in order to come out and win the race.
How nervous do you think Joe Gibbs Racing was?
Almost as nervous as I was with my fantasy lineup.
Yeah, so that was – and they had 2 cut tires in the Xfinity race. How many did they have in the 600? 2, 3?
Hamlin had like 2 or 3 different incidents.
Okay.
Jones went out early.
Di Benedetto.
It was getting really dicey.
And I realized Di Benedetto's not full-fledged.
Everybody but Kyle had trouble.
Yeah.
That I was after I think the Truex incident, we were on a text exchange, and I was basically lamenting the fact that my lineup was going to go to crap because I expected every Gibbs car to have a problem.
But the good thing was all of them were able to come back, with exception to Jones and Di Benedetto.
Yeah,
like they're all able to recover at some point.
I think the thing that kind of got overlooked a little bit with Denny was, he had that that wreck at the end, he was back in the top. Like
Yeah,
he
he was
come back
sixth.
into the top 10 multiple times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think just illustrated how dialed in those cars were on the long run.
That is another 1.5-mile track. Remember at Texas, Denny Hamlin had that penalty very early. Those last 3 green flag pit cycles, Chris Gabehart jumped him a total of 13 positions. And on that last one, he moved from second to first. That's how they won that race. So they're getting into a bind early, but they're good enough to figure out a way to bounce back and actually get a halfway decent run out of it.
Yeah, and you look at Gabehart. I mean, that's a gamer's race. You've got 600 miles. You had 16 cautions in that race. So if you were going to have trouble, that's going to be the racetrack that you can probably get back if you have a race with 16 cautions and have 600 miles to go.
Unfortunately, it didn't work that way for Eric Jones.
Yeah, it didn't.
But we digress. I didn't have him in every lineup. So let's go with Pocono and start with Joe Gibbs Racing. Is there any reason outside of uses to not play the 19 or 18?
Nope.
Simple enough. Jonathan.
No. I think if you don't play Martin Truex Jr., even if you're down to 1 use, I think it's a dumb move. I think he's in your lineup. No way. If you have 1 use left, play him.
I think this is another track where everything matters, and those Gibbs guys can do everything very well.
If you were, I'm gonna throw a hypothetical out fantasy-wise, because I've gotten this question the past couple of weeks, specifically around Harvick, which we'll get into later, and also Kyle Busch. If you're at, say, 4 uses with Kyle Busch, still absolutely play him here.
Well, funny you say that, RJ, because I'm at 4 uses with Kyle Busch, and he's not in my lineup.
Maybe I picked that number not at random.
Because I mean, when I think about Pocono, yeah, can Kyle Busch come out and win that race? Yes, but do I think Martin Truex Jr. has a better shot at winning that race? And let me go down my stat sheet here. I've got 6 uses left with Truex, so I feel like
You can play 5 guys.
yeah, but when I get to Bristol at the end of August, if I don't have a use with Kyle Busch left, I'm going to look like an idiot. There's a couple places coming up where I need the 18, and Pocono I don't feel like is one of them.
I'm with you on that boat. I think if you've got 5-6 uses on Kyle, play him, but you also got to make sure you have him for Bristol, Kentucky. I'd lean towards Chicago too, just with how good they've been on the 1.5s. New Hampshire's another one he seems to be pretty strong at. Indy to me is such a wild card because it's at the end of the year. I don't want to leave a use of Kyle Busch on the table. Like, I'd rather be out of Kyle Busch after Darlington than go to Indy, watch him wreck, and I've left a use on the table. Like, that happened with me with Truex last year.
So you think that Indy's more of a wild card than Bristol?
I know you think Bristol is a big wild card.
I think it's a huge wild card.
Not for Kyle Busch, though.
I think
it is. He wrecked on the
best racetrack,
second lap.
hands
and he still
down.
won.
And he still won the race.
I'm just saying that he was inches away from being done.
Disaster. I feel I don't. We have 2 races after that. I would like to be sitting on 2 uses or less with him because if he was to have an issue at Bristol, he's just going back in the lineup next week.
Okay.
That's when we get down to Bristol and Darlington, and for me, it's about having a handful of guys having a use available, and then Indy, I will just take the best of what's left if everything's gone according to plan.
Hey, you're beating me, so that's
Okay, so we're in on if you've got the uses, the 18 and 19. Absolutely.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. How about Denny Hamlin?
I'm not playing him, and I've got 5 uses left. And I mean, it's just he used to be the master at Pocono. His rookie year won both of those races, but man, you talk about somebody being snake bit as of late. I mean, if we went to Pocono after Texas, I would say yes, but we don't, so I'm not going to play Denny Hamlin.
What do you got, David?
His speed's going to be there, right? Where he has struggled in recent years is passing. And those corners at Pocono, if you can't figure those out, just how complex they are, it's the tricky triangle for a reason, right? That's going to play a big role in what you're able to do in this race. Can Hamlin figure out the new package on this racetrack maybe before some of the other guys near him in speed? I don't know. It might be too risky if you want to put him in a lineup.
I'm out on Hamlin this week.
I've had the uses, so I've kind of always started the week with him in, but this is one where I'm not touching him.
Even if he's really good in practice.
That would potentially change my mind, and I might reevaluate somebody else to save a use, but he hasn't been good at Pocono for the better part of 17 races. He hasn't been good this year for the past month. I mean,
that's what's
what
keeping me
actually
away.
scares me more is they've been off since the Texas win.
So what do you need
About.
him to score you in points wise?
He's a top guy, so I'd like a 40-point day if I'm gonna roll the dice with him. And then the other thing too that's a little bit of a wild card is, and we can dive in this a little later, is Pocono strategy can be a little finicky.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as cut and dry as it would seem.
You got to think restarts too. I mean, we're already 4 or 5 wide going into turn 1, and with
It's going to be worse.
It's going to be
or better.
Better. I think it's going to be better. Because it's not up to me to figure out what to do once you get into turn 1. I'm just there to watch. So I just hope nobody on my fantasy lineup wads it up. But
yeah, crazy wide racetrack. They have an escape route built in, right? Restarts this year, just in general, are more volatile than I've ever seen in the 5 years since I've been tracking them. From the preferred groove, the gains are bigger. From the non-preferred groove, the losses are steeper. That's going to factor in. The only question I have is, how many restarts are we actually going to see? Because this isn't a close proximity racetrack. It's not a track that induces many restarts. You might have to rely on pit strategies just as a fail-safe for this, because you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get.
yeah, but I want to know. I'm interested to see, because the straightaways here are so long, if the closing rate to the front car is going to be big enough where the leader can't get away. That's the only thing I can see that can, that has a chance of keeping these guys together. And I mean, who knows?
To David's point, I think the strategy is going to be very interesting. I think last year you had Harvick and Truex were consistently the top two, and they split. They would pit around 25-26, and then they came out 1-2 usually in both stages. But then I think you'll have some other guys, and we'll dive into Penske in a little bit, but some of those guys I could see coming first chance they get and trying to ride it out till the end.
Paul Wolf's a
Wolf's going to do the contrarian thing. And then this race also, more so in the summer when I think the points are a little more defined in terms of who's where on the standings and what you might need. If you get a late caution, you'll see the front runners probably pit and everybody else stay out to get the stage points, especially if the front runners have wins.
So 89% of our cautions last year were in the final stage at Pocono.
Okay.
So look for your cautions late at Pocono. So that's going to shake things up a little more with strategy and stuff like that.
I like that.
You like that?
Could produce an oddball winner.
Yeah.
And let's close out
See
Gibbs.
Ryan Newman.
We'll get to the odds.
Okay.
They're about the same as they were last week for him. Let's close out Gibbs with Eric Jones. Yeah, last week was a disappointment. I think we can just, that's probably an understatement, but let's just call it that. I like him a lot for Pocono as a rebound here. He's been top 8 in 3 of the past 4, and 3 of the 4 starts he's had.
Is this where his runs have usually started? Because he's really, really good with top 10 in them to death over the summer, and I feel like it starts around Pocono, Michigan. I have plenty of uses left. He might be a good garage guy, but I'm not ready to.
Not ready to jump.
I'm not ready to jump in.
But he was really fast at Charlotte. That wasn't like a bad car situation.
Yeah, but he's had a lot of bad luck.
Well, so did Larson, and what happened?
Yeah, he doesn't have any points to show for it.
What say you, Dave?
I don't think the luck carries over. I'm very high on Eric Jones. I'm actually going to write about him for The Athletic this week. But he has shown a propensity to pass on short tracks and to take advantage of some of these 2-mile tracks. He's from Michigan. He's going to look ahead 2 weeks from now to put on a good show there. But I wouldn't dismiss him as a pick if you need to fill in for just usage's sake. There's a lot to like. I like his ability to pass. The tire thing at Charlotte, fluky. I mean, yeah, it is just so fluky. The only thing to concern yourself with is if he gets himself into a bind early, as he did at Phoenix too, can he come back from it? That team positionally is the best closing team in the final 10% of each race. They have the wherewithal to come back, but they can't dig themselves too deep a hole.
But also, to your point, they've had to close.
Yeah.
So that's hard, because Kyle Busch hasn't had to close.
Yeah.
Truex hasn't had to close. They've been there. So
and Chris Gale is a phenomenal pit strategist just in terms of positional output. So they have been working hard to just catch up in the majority of these races. If they get to a point where Eric can live up to the speed of his car, and just run where it's supposed to, then he is reliably competing for top 5 finishes and eventually wins.
I'm to your point. I've got him marked for the garage because I would like a second Gibbs car.
I'm just a not yet. I'm not a no way. I'm just a not yet. I need another week.
Well, we talked a little bit about strategy. Let's dive into the team that might do some strategy shakeup with Penske. Where do we stand on all 3 of those guys? Logano, Kez, Blaney. Start with David. We'll work our way down.
Kez and Logano are 3 well-rounded drivers. Their cars are very fast. I like Paul Wolf. I don't feel the same about Todd Gordon on the long haul of a race. Pitting right prior to a stage or not pitting right prior to a stage just to collect points, then he might be your guy. We saw that at Dover a couple of weeks ago. Ryan Blaney, the only question I have, I know he's a former winner at Pocono, but how does he win this race again? Because he is the best restarter under the age of 30. You're banking on a late race restart if you're picking him to have a very successful day. The long runs are what bites him. He has not developed a long run passing acumen just yet. He's young, and it's still May, but question is, do you want to risk using him in your lineup while he's figuring it out?
I've been saying for a couple weeks that I'm a little weary of Penske and how long they can sustain. The same with Joe Gibbs Racing. It's interesting to me that Logano struggled so much for a lot of the 600 and was there at the end. Brad looked decent. Ryan looked decent. But I don't know. I mean, I sit there and say that, and I look at my lineup that's already set for Pocono, and Brad Keselowski's in it. But that's mainly because of Paul Wolf and that pit strategy. But I'm not touching the other 2. Well, I say that, but Blaney's in there too. So
you might need to rethink what your lineup
Well,
is.
it's all about, like, if in a perfect world I had 10 usages for everybody, I don't think I'd have either one of them in my lineup. But because I have 6 usages for Brad and 8 for Blaney, I think it's dumb not to play them because I'm so down on everybody else who I'd ideally like to play.
You're all in on Brad is a good reason. He's been top 5 in 6 of the last 7 at Pocono, and Logano's been the opposite, basically. He's 23rd or worse in 4 of the last 5 at Pocono. So I'm out on Logano, in on Brad, and Blaney's a toss-up. I could go either way on him.
To steal a Letarte phrase, Brad is a cornerstone pick, I think, for this race. Top 5 points in the last 4 at Pocono. I like the fact that Wolf's going to be contrarian. They've got the wins. I think they're going to take some strategy gambles. I still think they're going to come out on the right side of it. Maybe not a win, but a top 5 day. And I've got the uses with him, so he's absolutely in. Logano, I'm complete opposite. I'm staying the heck away from him. I sweated out the Coke 600 with him. I don't need that again. And I really like him for Michigan and a couple of the tracks we got in July. Blaney's a wait and see. Like, I've got the uses. I'd like to have him in there. He's probably in my tentative lineup. But, God, he's been bad the past month.
Him or Jones in your garage is what I want to know.
Do I play both? Or I could play both of them and hope I get one of them on. One of them on, one of them off, and that's essentially, if I've got both of them in, I'm banking that one of them is going to be good and the other one's going to be and I just don't know which one it would be. I'm not foreseeing that much into the future. I do foresee a Bryce Harper homer tomorrow when I'm at the game. But anyway, we digress. Stewart-Haas Racing. Was it just me, or did the Coke 600 feel underwhelming for that organization?
I mean, Kevin Harvick was the only driver in the top 10. And
has 2019 felt underwhelming for this organization?
I mean, that's a fair. I mean, a couple weeks ago, I would have said no for Suarez. But for the rest of them, yes.
So
wait. You think it's been good for Suarez
compared to what he was doing at Gibbs? Yes.
Through Martinsville
over the last 5 races.
No. But now since the past month, I would absolutely change my opinion.
Over the last 5 races, his car ranks 25th in central speed.
Basically since Texas,
span.
I think.
So
it has been bad.
I was listening to SiriusXM this morning. They were talking about the 4 camp, and they're like, statistically, he's doing better than he did last year. But I'm screaming at the radio. I'm like, but he had 5 wins.
No, they're wrong.
They're so wrong.
Yeah.
They're like, in terms of stage points, this, I'm just like.
So what is wrong with the 4 car?
They're not winning.
Okay.
They're not leading
Thank
laps.
you for the scientific.
You can't argue that.
No.
Okay. The 4-car, there's plenty of speed in that car. It ranks second this year in central speed. Rodney Childers is an excellent strategist in that he can defend that 4-car's running position when they relinquish a top 5 spot. That is very difficult to do. Here is the difference. Kevin Harvick is struggling with this new rules package. Harvick, you look at telemetry data, he was a driver that relied on the corners. He drove that car very deep into the corner before he got out of the throttle. Now, lower horsepower, he can't rely on that trick, and he's been neutralized. He has gone from the second most efficient passer in the NASCAR Cup Series to one of the bottom 7, and he's still trying to adapt. He's also older. I don't know if this old dog wants to learn new tricks, and that is explaining a lot of the year. He can throw as many people as he wants under the bus, but ultimately goes back to that driver in the car. He's not being able to get these positions so easily as he did in years past.
Russell, what do you make of Kevin Harvick?
He's led a quarter of the laps that he did at this point last year. He's just not leading the laps. Like, he's fast. They just can't keep up.
I feel like that's kind of what I was going to say. Is I feel like they're usually good the first third or so of a race.
Mm-hmm.
They're at their strongest, and then and Jessica pointed this out a couple months ago. When she was on after I think Vegas, like, there's just a noticeable drop off with them after that, like, first stage, second stage.
It's the final stage where they struggle.
They don't seem to make whatever the adjustment is that's needed. And I don't know if that's a crew chief thing, a crew thing, a communication to the team thing, or if they're just off in that part.
I think they're genuinely baffled by the new rules because everything you hear about Rodney Childers, he is the crew chief you want to have Monday through Thursday when he's looking at simulation data and devising a setup. But at the track, they're unloading fast. Again, they have plenty of speed, but I think teams are making better adjustments in the middle of races.
So are we out on him completely for Pocono? Even though the numbers would say play him.
No, I'm all in on him.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
how many uses do you have left?
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
I don't care. Like, this is a track for Harvick.
And see,
Yeah.
this is what's bitten me in the past because I'm like, oh, they got to come through. They got to come through. Phoenix. Oh, he's going to win Phoenix. Now I'm sitting here with 4 uses. I don't have jack to show for playing Kevin Harvick 6 times, Russell. I'm not playing him at Pocono. Convince me otherwise.
Top 4 of the last 5 races there. He's finished runner-up 4 times there. He's going to win there at some point.
It's one of
He's
the
finished first. He's finished first and second in both stages there last year.
Well, I do have him winning stage 1 tentatively in my lineup.
Okay, he won both stage 2s there last year.
Okay.
So I don't know how you don't play him.
Just in terms of the speed they have at their disposal, that's worth the risk.
Mm-hmm.
Has not won at Pocono. It's one of, not counting the Roval.
3
since they've only
tracks,
won-
including the Roval.
Well, I was going to say they've only run that once, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a pass there. But outside of that, in Kentucky, those are the only 2 he has yet to win at, which Kentucky's a little surprising. It's strong as they've been on the mile and a half.
But we haven't run there that long
True.
either. So
To me, it's a usage thing. I think we talked about this with Busch. Like, I think if you're at 4, I want to see it. Like, show it to me. Show me what you were at Kansas before the trouble late in the race.
And that's where I'm at. I would rather see him win and him not be in my lineup to get a good feeling about him in the 4 uses that I have left than to take a risk and settle on another 5th to 10th place finish at the end of the race.
So I agree with him completely because the Truex's wins this year, I didn't play him. Those are the 3 times I didn't play him.
Really?
Yeah.
You feel you're a little hurt by that. Truex is Russell's guy.
That's my guy.
okay.
Yeah.
Cole Pern's my guy.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good driver.
That's got to burn a little though. Three wins you haven't played him.
That's okay.
But maybe that's what
Still
you,
a win.
Maybe if you want him to win, don't play him. Like
That's what
you're taking one.
I'm
for
not
the
gonna
team.
play him
You're
much
taking one for
anymore.
the team. Anyways, are we in on anybody else at Stewart House for this week? Is there anybody we should be thinking about?
How do you feel about
Suarez maybe?
Almirola there?
Let's go. Amarola.
If Kevin Harvick isn't contending for wins in a race, I don't think anybody at Stewart Haas is going to be good enough to get me points. Maybe Boyer, but
So you're
that's
out
it.
on. You're out on all.
I'm out on all of them.
Out on all in.
Clint Boyer is the one that you might want to consider. He is the best passer this season for the Stewart-Haas stable. And he has the closest speed that emulates what the 4-car is doing. In years past, Stewart-Haas has deployed very fast race cars on the 2-mile tracks. Boyer got a win last year at Michigan. It was rain-shortened, but he beat Harvick to do it. Those were the 2 cars were the class of the field. Don't ignore him, but I wouldn't politic on his behalf very hard.
He was a very good source of stage points at Pocono last year. If you're looking for something as to hang your hat on, that's a possibility. I would agree with you. That
he can run well.
If I was looking at another Stewart-Haas guy, Boyer would be the guy.
Yeah.
But he can't finish at Pocono. Like, he doesn't do well at Pocono.
I think it's like, what, 1 top 10 in the last 4?
It's 1 top 10 in the last 6 at Pocono.
Okay, well, I was trying to be nicer.
But it's like, can you not figure that? Like, is that a place? Like, yeah, you can have speed, but you have to figure that place out. Like, it's not your average track.
And none of those corners are the same.
Right. So I feel like the guys that are good there. Like, they know how to race that track. If you're not good there, then you just can't figure it out or haven't figured it out yet.
So we're pretty much out on all of them. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm in on Harvick.
All right, we're gonna do one more team, and then we'll shift gears and do props and odds. Hendrick, and I actually want to start with David. He had a piece for The Athletic yesterday that looked at Central Speed, and I thought the chart you had put together kind of very well illustrated. The gap we might think the gap is Elliott to everybody else. I think the numbers suggest it's everybody else to Jimmy.
Yes. So they are, over the last 5 races, the 9 and the 88 car rank among the 5 fastest cars. Byron has about the 10th fastest car, and then it's a pretty big drop to the 48. Now, before we bury a 7-time champion, I'll point out Alan Gustafson, Greg Ives, and Chad Knaus are the top 3 pit strategists this year in terms of positional output. Okay, so
but they needed to.
Yeah, but those,
because they can gain more.
Because yes, but if you consider how they've done in years past, the faults that their drivers have, Chase Elliott is still an incomplete restarter and passer. The crew chiefs have taken it upon themselves to chip in where they can. Kevin Mendering is learning. He's doing okay. It's admirable for Jimmy, but Jimmy's passing has been so bad this year. He's also in the bottom 7 with Kevin Harvick. Any positions they're gaining on pit road, they're quickly losing. And just in terms of clean air and track position, they're not getting clean air. It's not fast. The car is probably pretty good. We're just not seeing the full extent of it.
So do we like him at all for Pocono?
Jimmy?
Yes.
He's not in my lineup. He's the only Hendrick driver that I don't have in my lineup or in the garage.
Oh, we feel good after Charlotte.
I've been high on Hendrick for a couple of weeks now.
Is it a usage case, or you feel that good? Or is it a little bit of
it's
both?
It's the best of both worlds. I mean, I got a guy like Bowman who I have 8 uses left. Why wouldn't I play him at Pocono? I mean, I don't think his stats tell the whole story because he's only been in good equipment for 1 year, and he's coming off of a 3rd or a 7th place finish.
Well, he was 3rd at Pocono last year.
Yeah.
So why not play him? I have the usage. He's shown consistent speed. I thought he had a little bit better car than where he finished. I think he finished 7th in the 600. So Chase, I mean, he's one of the most consistent guys in that garage, I feel like, no matter what's going on with Hendrick Motorsports. And then I've got Byron in the garage, and I haven't used him once.
I think if it wasn't for Truex, I think we'd be talking about the hot streak Chase Elliott's been on. I mean, he's been, I think, 4 races of over 47 points.
4 straight top 5s.
Yeah. I mean, he's just, if Truex didn't have the 2 wins in the last 4, I think he's the guy we're talking about a little more. I've got a lot of uses on Elliott because I kind of slow played him. I didn't think he'd stay this hot at this point. So I'm definitely all in with him. I'm with you on Bowman.
I've got 7 uses for Chase left.
You've got to ride the hot streak with Bowman, especially because the numbers are deceiving and his career numbers are deceiving. And outside of maybe Daytona, I don't know of any track that I'd think off the top of my head I've got to have him at. So I'm going to ride the streak until it screws me up.
Well, if you think back, I mean, he's finished 2nd in a couple of stages. He's finished 2nd in 3 races, and And this is not a slight against Alex Bowman. It's just, I didn't think the maturation process would happen this fast with him. So, like you said, why not play the hot hand? Coming into the year, I didn't think I was going to be getting this productivity out of him. So put him in there.
It's found money.
Yeah, put him in there and see what happens.
Especially with the streak he's on, this might help you save a Kyle Busch for a race you might want him that's more advantageous. A Harvick.
Yep.
A Truex if you're low on him, although to your point, I would play him. Lagan, he's a use saver right now with the way they're running. It's found money. You were not if we were sitting here 3 months ago, you wouldn't have been saying Alex Bowman's the 5th fastest car, and I expect to trot him out there 4 straight weeks. You would not have been expecting that.
If we were racing at Martinsville this week, he wouldn't be in my lineup. But
that's fair.
Yeah.
And Hendrick's really good at Pocono.
Yeah.
So
I would agree with that. I mean, Elliott, I think he won a stage there last year, and he was 2nd in the other one, I think, in the summer. So
it plays to their strengths. That
1 and 2nd.
He's got one finish outside the top 10 there in his career.
He would be my other cornerstone with Kez of guys that I have more uses available.
This is going to be a big 2 weeks for Chase Elliott.
He's good at Michigan too,
yeah.
And that's something we will certainly dive into next week. Byron, I know you're in on Byron.
Byron's in my garage.
Well, we'll save him for the sleeper discussion. If you're,
I think I would wait on him a little bit, but I wouldn't be against him. Me personally, I'm waiting.
Byron.
No,
you're gonna.
No, Pocono's hard.
Now, he was 6th there last July.
Now he's from the iRacing background, right? So he has probably seen the place pretty often. I think now if you're betting on Byron, you're betting on speed. Chad Knaus, you know what you're getting from him, but
won a truck race there.
Byron is still very young.
The thing I like about
That's
him
such a tough
that
track.
gives me some consideration is they've got single car qualifying nailed. They've been a top 3 car out of the gate.
Now, does that change your opinion on Byron if you see him top of the board in qualifying?
Yeah, because I think I can steal some stage points.
Stage points, okay.
Yeah. He'd get put in a bucket with me with, say, Ryan Blaney and Eric Jones, and one of those two would get booted out if he qualifies well.
I feel like I'd rank him higher than Blaney and Jones going into the weekend. And
that hurts my feeling.
But then you're just waiting. You're waiting and seeing what they're able to do in practice and qualifying just to confirm what you think could happen.
I've got him on the outside looking in right now,
okay.
But he is on the list, which is always very important. He's got to be on the RJ list. Anyways, we're gonna come back to fantasy with some sleepers, but we're gonna shift into the props, the NASCAR Props Challenge, a game that started this year on the NASCAR.com platform. It's a good time. You can make some bets with your pals.
Mm-hmm.
You can lose coffee to Steve when he's here. I didn't have to pay up this week because he's not here, so my wallet's a little heavier, and I appreciate that. Let's dive in here to the props. 3 of the last 4 Pocono winners have started from inside the top 4. Do we think the winner will start from inside the top 2 rows this year?
You got to wait and see who qualifies.
See, I'm giving ample opportunity.
That's a good point.
Right.
I don't even know who's starting in the top 4.
If Truex or Kyle Busch is there, I'd say yes. Let's.
Which they haven't won a pole this year, Toyota. So
first time
good
for
luck
everything.
with that.
First time for everything. If William Byron's there, I'll wait and see. Over under 34.5 race points for Clint Boyer. Yeah, I'm on the fence on that one.
His average this year is 28 points, and he's not good at Pocono. So
Yeah, but if he gets the stage points.
Yeah, strategy.
I'm just telling you.
Under.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Under across the board.
I'll take the over on that.
You'll
Just
be the
to-
contrarian.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
What am I going to lose?
This one to me is more of an indictment on if you think the 18 or 19 is going to win the race. Toyota has won the last 3 Pocono races. Does the streak continue?
Yes.
I agree with that.
Sure. Yeah.
Of course.
Well, you're not going to play Truex, so yeah.
No, but he's still going to win.
Lead changes over under 15.5.
It's a coin flip. I would say over, though, with this package.
I think over strategy. I think we could.
We traditionally don't see a lot of lead changes here because, especially now with the stages that are, because you don't have that green flag pitting, so we don't see as many turnover lead change-wise. But I would say this package could produce more lead changes than in the past.
I'll take under. The leader at Pocono retains his restart spot about 88% of the time.
Okay. All right. Scientific data.
I'll
That's
take-
why the man's on.
I'll take the over. I think the closing rate on the straightaways is going to be insane. And if you can get in front of somebody, nose up in front of somebody, I think you can get it done. But I think that if you try to get in front of somebody, like we've seen a lot of these guys do, I think we'll have a lot of cautions, people trying to clear themselves and sliding up in the corner. So I think we'll have some cautions this weekend. I'm going to take the over.
We're coming back to Chase Elliott. Over under 12.5 stage points for Chase. That number feels low to me. I wrote that question, and that feels low.
I don't know.
It does. Like, thinking through it now, because I think he's a top 5 car.
Yeah, but strategy at Pocono, I feel like whenever I do this, I always get bit because it's like, oh, Chase Elliott will probably, be leading, but then they'll try to short pit a stage and people will stay out and then he'll come up bust. So I wouldn't play that prop if it was me.
Yeah, because
you legit wouldn't play it.
I
though.
would
You
not.
Wouldn't, you
I
wouldn't
would
be like Steve and say, I'm not playing it, and then play all of them.
No, I would not play that prop.
Okay.
But see, at Pocono, you can pit and not lose a lap. So a lot of times what we see at Pocono is if you're not going to win that second stage, you're going to pit so you don't have to pit at that stage. So I think, strategy-wise could bite you on this one if you're Chase Elliott.
David.
Roll the dice on strategy. I'd say
Over?
Take the over.
I'm with you
because
on the over.
It's the second fastest car in the last 5 races. They're going into Pocono with a ton of speed. Why wouldn't you?
This one I particularly like. Which 2-car team will have the best finish at Pocono? JT Daughtry Racing or RCR? To me, that feels Buescher versus Austin Dillon. But I kind of like Priest, too. Like, Hemrick's got to show it to me.
This is getting into my sleeper picks, but I'm high on
We'll
that
save
37 car.
Save a little bit.
I would take JTG Daugherty.
I agree.
I'll take JTG.
We'll save some Buescher stuff for
Yeah.
later. Because there's something we want to talk about with him that's been pretty good. Over under 2.5 drivers lead over 35 laps. I am heavy under on this one.
Who wrote this question?
Say that again for me.
Over under 2.5 drivers lead over 35 laps. I'm having a hard enough time seeing one potentially. And I think if there's one, that dude's leading like 80 laps.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like stage 2, a guy could get out there and lead front to back just because stage 2 usually isn't that eventful. So, I don't know.
So historically, this has never happened. So it's going to be really hard for a guy to lead like 35, 35, 35.
And I would say the way the stages are broken up, it doesn't lend itself either. It's 50, 50, 60. You figure the leaders pit halfway. What if there's a swap of position with, if it's Elliott and Harvick, for example, and Elliott comes in with the lead, Harvick comes out. Like,
What if Harvick wins a pole, leads all of stage 1, and then Truex is up there stage 2 and leads every lap of
I
stage
like your
2?
hypotheticals.
So, I don't know.
I would go under. I feel like that's probably the one I feel the most confident about is going under with that one.
I think this is a gimme.
Under.
Under.
Yeah, under as well. I can see this race having not many lead changes, but a lot of different leaders.
Is there any other ones you like? You got your computer up? No, you don't want to dive into anything else?
Well, the Jimmy Johnson. Do you think he's going to finish in the top 10?
No.
I feel good about the no on that one too.
I've got a better prop bet, side bet for you. It's not on the game.
Okay. For coffee?
JTG versus Roush in terms of a 2-car team who does better because the
that's a good one.
The
That
17
is really good.
The 17 is better than the 37 right now. I think he's just got to put it together.
The 17 is my sleeper, by the way.
Save it.
Okay.
Save it. We're coming back. We're going to move to odds. So Vegas every week puts out odds before each race, on a Monday or Tuesday, and then they update them after qualifying and practice. So who do we think is the favorite? This should come as no surprise.
Kyle Busch.
What do we
Truex.
think his odds are at?
5-2.
3-1.
Wow. Really?
3-1.
I was going to be rude and say 1-1. I wasn't that off.
I mean, it feels that way. And then we go Harvick. I think they're giving him the benefit of the doubt. 9-2.
This is a lifetime achievement award, even though he has never
I
won
mean,
Pocono.
I think that's fair. I
Yeah.
think that's fair to say. Like Truex's odds should not be lower than his, and they are.
What are they?
6-1. They're not that much lower, but they're lower.
Yeah, but that's a mistake.
Kez 7-1.
Mm-hmm.
Your guy's way down the board. We'll get to him. 10-1. Elliott and Logano. I'm becoming intrigued, but I'm not committed to anything hypothetically.
Okay.
Hamlin 12-1. Feels
No.
high. Feels very high.
Yeah.
Based on recent results, Pocono history. 20-1. This is where RJ's money potentially could be going. Blaney, Boyer, Larson, Kurt Busch.
Ooh.
And we haven't talked about Ganassi.
I don't think Kurt's. I don't know. They've fallen off a little bit lately, but
Kurt Busch
Pocono's
has
a weird place.
Kurt Busch has the 4th best average finish, but the 11th fastest car. That's not sustainable.
Yeah, and Larson's been faster of late.
Yeah.
There's been
What did we say last week about Larson?
It depends when he's going to hit the
what
wall.
What do you mean we said? What do you mean?
Everybody said no, Larson. Everybody was all in on Larson last week. And what did I say? The race is too
I took
long
Eric
for
Jones
him.
in the prop and still lost when Larson wrecked.
Larson burned me last week.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie.
Lap
It was a
12.
head-to-head prop, and I
Lap
still
12,
lost.
he's in the wall. Lap 12.
Well, it just depends how hard he hits it.
Yeah, but Eric Jones's was terminal, and that's who I took.
Okay.
I like Blaney at 20-1. He's not the one I love the most on this board, but I do like him at 20-1.
You'll be rooting for a late restart.
I can live with that.
Okay.
I can live with that. 25-1. Eric Jones. Your Jimmy Johnson stock watch, 25-1.
He's 25-1.
25-1. And Alex Bowman,
It's 25-1?
25-1.
That's the best one so far.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree.
Kind of like Jones.
I can see
There.
that too.
I like him there.
He's jonesing over there.
How do you feel about Bowman and Jimmy being on equal footing?
Don't get it.
Okay.
Don't get it. The past month, Bowman's.
What's a
second-
lifetime achievement award?
Yeah, it's like we
Yeah.
talked about with Harvick. 40-1. Amarola, Suarez, Byron. Byron's mildly intriguing at 40-1. They've got the speed. We talked about it. They got the speed.
It is. Yeah.
Suarez was runner up there last July.
Yeah, but he was, 25th in the last 5 on speed?
Different car now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not in a bad car.
No, he's not a bad car, but they had some momentum coming out of like Texas Bristol, and woo, just dropped off the face of the earth like they were a roller coaster at Six Flags.
I feel like you worked on that one before you came into that.
Yeah.
That was a spur of the
Oh,
moment.
it's written right here.
That's a spur of the moment. That's why the,
Right in your
that's why the
ad-lib.
analogy made no
Yeah.
sense.
Six
It's spur of the
Flags.
moment.
I'm going to write that down.
50-1, Austin Dillon. I'll be Letarte. No.
No.
He dismisses him so fast every week. 100-1. This is where I think you guys will have some interest. Stenhouse, Newman,
Yep.
Buescher, Menard.
Well, that's a hard no on Menard.
Yeah.
Brad Norman would be upset.
But Stenhouse and Buescher.
Yeah, but
If you had
which
to
one
pick
would you take? I mean, I feel like Stenhouse has been running better, but I don't know if I trust him all that much at Pocono.
You're talking to win.
Do you? Yes.
Yes, this is to win.
This is, but you can get off your couch and bet $5 on that one.
Yeah.
But they're really similar.
It's
So the speeds are where Ricky Stenhouse has an advantage is speed. Over the last 5 races, he's 15th in speed. The 37 car is still only 22nd or 23rd. They both have crew chiefs that have a strong acumen for long green flag pit strategy. Brian Patty has been arguably the best strategist this year, looking just in terms of retention and positional output. This is a long race. Asking Ricky Stenhouse to get something done over the course of 400 miles at Pocono is a tough question, but that might be my choice. It might be Ricky. Yeah.
I feel like the 17's got a better shot to win the race than the 37.
But you really like the 37.
But I really like the 37.
What do you like about the 37?
The fact that he smacked the wall so hard at Charlotte and still ended up finishing well.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it didn't end their day. I mean, if he can keep all 4 corners on that race car, I feel like he'll have a better shot than Ricky, but with the restarts and everything else. Because, look, they're not going to start up front. They're going to be in the meat of the sandwich back there going into turn 1 on the start of the race and on the restarts.
Yeah.
that's what worries me about it. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a coin flip. I'd be fine either way.
Where that will make sense is on the restarts, because Chris Buescher is, ironically, the best non-preferred groove restarter right now in the NASCAR Cup Series. That is a true fact. And
What's the preferred groove?
the preferred groove at Pocono is the outside. The inside is the
Okay, we always thought the preferred groove at Charlotte was the inside, and then we saw it would be the outside this year.
No, it's been the outside for a few years. And when they rolled the
this
tire
weekend we had them starting inside outside. It's all depends on who's your pusher and who's behind you and what other strategy you have.
I got a new segment for you, RJ. Instead of cat fight, it's stat fight.
That just doesn't, like, we always track that in the booth, and it
Right.
just doesn't play out as much because there's so many different strategies now, especially at Pocono. You're going to have all different strategies, and that's why I'm in on Newman for that.
It also
for sure.
tires.
For
I feel
sure
like
on Newman.
are going to be at a premium as well. I think what we've seen the past couple of weeks with the tires. I mean, you know,
Well, like my man DW always says, he's harder to pass than a kidney stone right there.
He dropped like a rock when he stayed out at the end of Charlotte.
Well, it's just depends.
I didn't write that analogy down either.
So Newman, non-preferred groove restart, his retention rate, do you care to guess what it is? How often does he keep his position on non-preferred groove restarts?
well, every time I look at that car, it's on a restart, it's going backwards.
8%.
Oh God.
He could opt to just not participate on a non-preferred groove restart, and his results would not be that much worse.
But it's probably because he's off strategy or something like that.
When he's
And
in
if
the
you're
top
not in the
14,
top
yeah.
3 rows on a restart, you can't, then it doesn't really matter.
Well, you can if you're in the preferred groove. But there are other drivers better in non-preferred groove positioning than he is. He has just been bad for them this year.
So do you count the preferred groove all the way through, or do you just do the top 3 rows?
top 7 rows?
Okay.
I'm gonna circle back. I kind of like Buescher for that one. I know it's not where you guys were going, but I'm jumping back in.
It's not a bad pick.
Yeah, he was on my sleeper list, but I'll let Merriman have
Has a
that one.
win there.
He does have
That's
a
a
win
win
there.
there.
Is it all you got? Didn't we have like
some
wasn't
more.
Newman like 300 to 1
He
last
was
week?
200
200
last
to
week.
1?
Yeah, he's moved up slightly. Daniel Hemrick 300 to 1. No. Matthew D. Benedetto 500 to 1.
Nope.
1,000 to 1.
Wow.
Ty, Dylan, Priest, Bubba, McDowell, Reagan.
It might be worth just putting some money. 1,000 to 1.
Priest-
1,000 would be fun.
1,000
but,
to 1's big.
Priest wouldn't be bad for that. Throw a couple bucks on that.
If it was a stage win, I'd put it on Ty.
I mean, it's $1,000.
Yeah, I think
$5 on 1,000 to 1.
so. Your best bet would be Stenhouse. You feel the most comfortable at that at 100 to 1.
Yes.
Busher,
I'd go with
No.
Bowman.
you'd go Bowman.
Yeah.
I'm Priest at 1,000 to 1.
Okay. Yeah.
How much you throwing down on that?
$5.
Okay.
That's a good
If
bet.
you're going to bet 5, you might as well bet 10.
I would go
If you
Byron.
bet 10,
I might
might as well
put
bet
5
the
on
more
each
I
of
look
them.
at, the more I look at it, I'd go Byron 40 to 1. I think
That's
that's
how
the
you
best
build a
combo.
gambling dependency.
Yeah.
That's how you have a problem.
All right, so we hinted a little bit at sleepers. We'll circle back to fantasy. We hinted a little bit at sleepers. We kind of talked around them a little bit in this last segment, but let's just go across the couch. One sleeper for Pocono
Stenhouse.
for all the reasons you cited.
I believe so.
I've got 2 listed. Stenhouse was 1, but 37 for
37.
yeah, for obvious
we like the
reasons.
37.
He's not as much as a sleeper, but we haven't talked about him. Kurt Busch is my guy.
Okay, well we can talk about Ganassi now.
3-time Pocono winner, all with different organizations. This will be a different organization for him. Although Ganassi's never won there, I still think he's your guy, and he leads a lot of categories at Pocono. Top 5s, top 10s. His average finish this year isn't bad, and the lead engineer on that one car is who? My guy Jazzy.
Yeah, your guy from Furniture Row.
So I think he's your best. Like he's my first pick on my fantasy league.
You're not at all concerned that the speed seems to have shifted from the 42 to the 1, or vice versa, from the 1 to the 42.
Nope.
Not at all concerned about that. Not at all concerned that he's kind of been MIA for the past maybe 2-3 weeks.
Well, he hasn't been MIA. He just hasn't been as
good.
hasn't been as good. Yeah.
These are critical questions I'm asking.
Well,
Okay.
I'm telling you. He was
Yeah,
seventh
I
at
can't get. I
Kansas.
can't get there with young Kurt.
Okay.
I can't get there.
Hey, we're not talking to win. We're talking for a good points day.
Yeah, I can't get there with you on Kurt.
That's fine.
I'll roll the dice even further since we haven't talked about this guy and we've talked about everybody else that's on my sleeper list. Larson. He's boom or bust. I'm not saying I'm playing him, but he'd be the sleeper I'd be looking at.
How do I only have 5
This is his
usages left?
fourth, because he was good early.
Yeah.
He was good early. He's got the 4th best average finish of tracks remaining in the regular season. This is his 4th best. We go there twice. Finished second in this race last year.
I'd wait and see and play him the second time. if he did
What tracks have you already used Larson at this year?
Dover, because that was
Okay.
if you don't perform, you're pretty much dead to me
Oh,
type race.
Yeesh.
I said it on here.
that feels pretty harsh.
Based on how he had been running, he
Okay.
would not have been in consideration for a while.
You didn't use him at Fontana.
I think I garaged him because he was underperforming.
Okay. Michigan, you like him for there?
Kind of
Yes.
want to see it, but going in like him.
Okay. So why Pocono?
Part of it's a usage with him because I've only used him twice.
Sure.
I think Atlanta was the other one I used him in.
Okay. Yeah, and he was very fast. Yeah.
And I had initially mapped out using him at races where they were going to have the package similar to Atlanta, but they've shifted course on that a little bit.
Okay.
Still like him for Darlington later in the year.
That's another driver. His ability in the corners, his passing. Last year, he was the #1 passer in the Cup Series.
It's mitigated.
It's not there yet.
I think he's consistently been a top 12 car at Pocono, which for his standards and what I would have wanted out of him in February,
Right.
not ideal. But
Yeah.
for I think where we are now, if I can get 30 points out of him, I think that's a good use at this point, especially with 8 uses on the table and the strong potential of not using all 8 of those.
Yeah, things have changed.
I think we're living in a world now where if I used Kyle Larson 10 times, I either need to have my head examined or he got hot. It's one of those two things.
I'm still waiting on him to get hot.
You probably should have your head examined.
I mean, I think my parents and everybody else would agree with that statement. But I don't know where I was going to go with that.
Coworkers.
Yeah, coworkers. I was trying to be polite. Couch, everybody. Is there anybody else we've left out that we feel any semblance of strength towards?
Nope.
No?
Mm-mm.
Austin Dillon.
Nope.
Okay.
I don't know.
He might qualify well.
I would expect him to qualify decent.
See what happens as your
They
poll
won
pick.
the Coke 600 on
No, I
fuel
got
mileage a couple years ago, so I don't know if things get weird.
It's true. They could get weird. I mean, he's been like a top 15 car at Pocono.
The
which
race would have to break.
But,
in
like,
a very weird way.
Everybody have to run out.
If you were looking for, I guess where I could get on board with him potentially is if you were looking for a garage guy that is not going to screw you up. And if you just want a guy that's going to give you like 23 points, he might be your guy. Almost like how I think we used to view Newman at times.
Yeah,
As like a guy that's going to like finish in the top 15.
but why wouldn't you pick the
No, I think there's
37
guys-
or 17?
I think there's guys with more upside. I'm trying to get you to an argument of why you would potentially put him
And it's
in.
not working, right?
Yeah, it's not.
No, it's not.
Yeah, you're screaming at a wall right now.
I'm not saying I would do it. I'm
Yeah.
just for the user at home. If they're sitting at home thinking, hey, Austin Dillon might be an option, this is the scenario where he's potentially an option.
Yeah, okay.
I would use him at Daytona.
It could rain.
Let's not go with that forecast. So before we dive into our lineups, poll picks. Let's go around.
Alex Bowman.
Like it.
9.
9.
24.
I'll
Ooh.
go contrarian with all of you, Harvick.
I like our pattern better.
I do like the Hendrick. We'll see
Most
what
polls this year.
we'll see what practice does. If I did have to pick a Hendrick car, I'd go 9. I've got a good feeling about him this weekend. Anyway, lineups. We will put you on the spot.
Wow.
We
I
can
got
come
mine
back.
set, man.
Yeah,
I'm
Merriman's
not-
already got his.
I'm
Merriman's
gonna
already
have to
got
go
his
back
written
to
out.
color
Let's go.
prints.
Yeah.
He's got a card.
I do.
All right, Merriman.
Yeah. I don't have
give
a
me
card.
the pop-up.
Maybe not lineup, but give me like 3 drivers you'd have in for Pocono.
3 drivers I would. Stenhouse, Buescher, Keselowski.
I like it. Little dichotomy
Yeah.
of Heavy usage, low
Yeah.
usage. I like that.
I got Bowman, Truex, Blaney, Elliott, Keselowski, Byron in the garage. Chase is my pole pick. And tentatively, before seeing qualifying, I've got Harvick winning the first 2 stages, Truex winning the third.
He went all in.
He
Wow.
did.
All
He
in,
did.
yeah.
I will
That could
not
change,
be
but
disclosing
probably
that because
won't.
I have not even thought about
Yeah.
that.
I got Kurt, Keselowski, Harvick, Kyle Busch, Truex, and Elliott in the garage.
What are your Harvick uses
heavy.
at?
It's pretty. It's a lot.
Mm.
Like, are we teetering on down the 2?
Like, are you less?
4?
Okay, so you'd be down the 3.
I'm 4 with him and Kyle.
Yeah, that's why they're not in my lineup.
Yeah. See, with Harvick, I'll do mine in a second. With Harvick, I want him for Michigan. I want him for Darlington.
They're good at
I
Loudon.
want him for Chicago. Probably Kentucky. But yeah, Loudon would be the other one.
It's not bad at Sonoma.
The road courses to me are a true wild card. I want guys that are chasing stage points.
Are they a wild card, though?
No, not
don't
anymore.
I
think
think in
so.
terms of fantasy production, they are.
That's
Well,
because of the off pit stops and
Yeah.
strategy and all that stuff. But
But that's like Pocono's like that too, though.
I think the first one's a little more predictable, just based on past years. The first one tends to play out in a normal fashion. I will go with Truex, Elliott, Keselowski, Bowman,
copycat.
Blaney for now, Eric Jones in the garage.
That's everything but the garage.
I didn't even listen to what you
Jeez,
said.
Did you guys like powwow over this before?
No.
No,
before
we haven't
recording?
talked in
I
like
picked
3 days.
first.
But I will say with Blaney and Jones, I will be watching Byron closely. If he qualifies better, he'll fit into my lineup somehow.
I think he will qualify very well.
I think he'll fit into my lineup somehow. The only other guy I would really think about is if Harvick just looks lights out. But he's got to look lights out. Like, it's got to be Kansas from 2 weeks ago where we didn't foresee the problems he was going to have in the final stage. Like, if he's goes out and dominates the practices, wins the pole, fastest 10 laps, looks like he's untouchable.
Well, the track should be consistent too. I mean, it's not. We're not going through a transition or anything there too. So if
no,
he's
it's at 2 o'clock.
if he's fast at 2 o'clock,
time.
he should be fast at
Yeah, I would agree with that.
4:35.
Well, and this week we practice twice on Friday.
That is true. Yeah, different
Qualify
schedule. Saturday morning.
and then they're impounded from there.
Correct. And then the race is at 2. So anyway,
Do we have Steve's lineup?
we do not have Steve's lineup. He is on vacation. We were not gonna.
Steve's lineup is margarita, daiquiri, pina colada.
It's probably got the 4. It's probably got the 19.
He'll
Probably
play
the 9.
42.
Probably
and
the
even though he
9.
won't tell us.
Probably the 9. Probably Blaney. I feel like he'd put Blaney in the garage.
If he's on vacation, you should just set his lineup for him.
I don't want to do that for
That'd
him.
be the
'cause then
friendly thing to
But
do.
then I get blamed when it goes bad because I would do the exact opposite of what I did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd burn all the guys. He's got like 2 uses left.
Steve, if you're listening or watching, we are not doing any of that, although I could. So anyway, we appreciate you joining us for this week. David, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was
When's
fun.
your next thing going to post for The Athletic?
The Athletic, I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So if you're not already a subscriber to The Athletic, you can go now and get 40% off your first year. You can read me, Jeff Gluck, Jordan Bianchi. We are doing some really cool stuff. We got some big plans for the summer months. So theathletic.com.
And you're still doing your podcast with Kavana? Right.
Positive Regression,
Yes.
a motorsports analytics podcast. Alan Kavana, my
Sorry, friend of the pod. Friend of the pod,
Oh,
Alan
yeah.
Kavana.
Be careful. That's a brother to me now. But we are, if you like hearing my voice, if you like getting really nerdy about NASCAR, we're available every Thursday morning for free. iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, everywhere we get podcasts.
I was a guest a couple months ago. It was
You
fun.
were.
It was
We
fun. This
enjoy-
is a home and home.
We enjoyed having
I'm
you.
stealing a Zach Lowe. If you listen to Zach Lowe of ESPN basketball, he always
yes.
refers when they do he'll go on Bill Simmons' podcast and then Simmons will come in and he always refers to it as a home and home. And I've
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
wanted to steal that, so I'm stealing it now.
Awesome.
Home and
I'll
home.
take it.
This was a home and home. Merriman, as always, it was great to have you.
Great to be here.
Russell, my man, back
guess-
again next week.
I guess. Yeah.
What's that mean?
As long as they let me in again.
Round
let you
2.
in.
Of
I got the badge.
Stat fight.
I got
next
the
week.
badge.
You need a graphic.
So please rate, review, and subscribe to the Fantasy Fastlane Podcast on iTunes. check out the NASCAR and YouTube page for the full video version of the show. And feel free to tweet myself, Merriman. Russell doesn't have Twitter, so you can't.
all right.
But you can ping me on behalf, and I can see about getting
I'll
answers.
answer you.
David
we'll put his
also on
cell
Twitter.
phone number at the bottom of the screen. You just text him.
Help
That's
wanted.
fine.
Anyways, ping us with questions and comments over the course of the weekend, and we'll try and answer and guide you through as much of Pocono as we can. Thank you.